every single one of us should be focused on building strength and muscle. And that doesn't mean you have to be a bodybuilder. And I think that's another thing that we get in our heads. We're going to get big and bulky, like, the Hulk or something like that. And I got to tell you, that ain't going to happen.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the Macro Hour, or if you are new, welcome to the show. Today, you are all in here for a special treat. We have another inspiring guest here with us, owner of Susan Neibergall. I'm not butchering that, am I? Neibergall Fitness. Okay. And co-coach with the awesome Jordan Sayat in the Inner Circle. Susan is a woman who empowers all women and all people, really, that they can get fit at any age and it's never too late. And that's also the name of her incredible book to you guys. We'll dive into all that amazing things. But at 62 years young, she has a rocking body, such an incredible body. And I'm excited to have her here on the show with us today to share her story and so many other good insights that I feel like are just going to come from this podcast. So welcome to the show, Susan.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you for all that, by the way. And the name, great, Neibergall. I've been called all kinds of things, so it's good.
I'm glad I didn't butcher it.
It's all good. And thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to having this conversation.
Amazing. Cool. So, Susan, tell us a little bit more about you and what you do.
So, I am an online strength coach. I have a business called Susan Neibergall Fitness, which is where I started in the industry, on the online industry. And I'm also running the Inner Circle with Jordan Sayat. He and I run a big online fitness community together. And that's currently the status of what I'm doing right now. Not really doing too much one-on-one stuff and that kind of thing right now, as most of my coaching is all in the Inner Circle. And that's my focus. It's kind of interesting. Life just takes you in different directions and you focus on different things at different times. And that's kind of where I'm at right now, and I'm loving every single second of it.
Amazing. Awesome. So we were catching up here before we hopped into actually hitting the record button for you guys, but you shared that you've made every mistake in the book with fitness, but you were able to turn it around in your 50s. So do you mind sharing what those mistakes were with us and how you did turn it around?
Wow. Where do I begin on this? I started this... I guess to back up for a second, I have always been on the heavy side. I've never been obese, but I've always had weight to lose. Always, since I was a kid up through young adulthood, and never understood ever how to do it. And as a young adult, I went to Jenny Craig, which I just heard today, they're shutting their doors permanently as of this week, which is like crazy because they've been around for 40 years almost.
Wow.
But for those that don't know, Jenny Craig, those of you that are my age, you know exactly who Jenny Craig is. But for those of you that may not, it is just kind of a meal plan company where you buy their food and then eat it and then you lose weight. And essentially that's what happened with me. And when you do that on the surface, this is like, great, right? I lost all this weight. But the issue is, at least back then, I learned nothing about what I was doing. I didn't know how much I was eating. I just ate this food on this little tray that they told me to eat. And I was hungry all the time. That's pretty much what I learned. I lost the weight. And of course, I couldn't keep it off. I had no idea how to keep it off. And the only way after that I knew to lose weight was basically eat virtually nothing and be hungry all the time. That was in my brain. So that's the first big mistake, is kind of thinking that I have to overly reduce my calories to next to nothing in order to lose weight. I think other mistakes I've made throughout the years is thinking I couldn't eat fat. That fat, dietary fat, was the same fat that's in my body, and I can't eat it because if I eat it, it's just going to turn to fat. Fat was bad. So we went through the whole no fat kind of time. And all the while, carbs were worked in and out as the devil. They've always been the devil, poor carbs. If you really think about it, carbs never get a break, and they haven't had a break in 40 years.
I know.
Right? So I made that mistake, did stuff like Slim Fast, went through a big, long period of Slim Fast, right? And I thought, well, I'm just going to pair like Cheerios or some healthy cereal with it. And that was my thing for so long. I also, way back in the day, I took these appetite suppressants, I guess. They look like little chocolate candies.
Oh,
And I think they were called AIDS, AYDS. Somebody told me that because I couldn't remember. And they were nothing more than pieces of chocolate, essentially. They did absolutely nothing. And then I think another mistake I made over the years is being a clean eater. And while there's nothing wrong with eating nutrient-dense foods and being aware of that, but when you only eat that for fear of eating anything else, because if you eat anything else, you're going to lose your progress or get fat. That's where I was with it. I think that's where a lot of us have been with clean eating. Like, I can't eat out of my little clean food bubble. But those are the ones that come up top of my head right away. And you know, they're very common. I think a lot of people have tried something like Jenny Craig, or did low fat or low carb or no carb, or this diet or that diet that is no carb, or whatever. We've all done these things. And my message is just, it doesn't matter how many times that you mess up, how many mistakes you made, you can always turn it around.
Yeah, I love that so much. And especially coming from what you grew up with Jenny Craig and, you know, Slim Fast, and I think Weight Watchers was in there too as well. And like all of those things, women connected with that message and that marketing, right? And it's like, let's be skinny, let's look skinny, let's eat this diet to get skinny, right? And it's like, not to any women's fault there or your fault there that you tried all of those things. That's just what was known back then, right?
Yeah, it was. Skinny was the thing.
Yeah.
That word in particular, it was that word. Like, I wanted to be skinny my whole life, you know, and the irony is, when I started changing my body around and I lost a lot of weight and built this muscle, I was skinny. And I look at myself, and that was only 4 or 5 years ago. I look at myself back then, I'm thinking, I liked it for a time because I felt like I finally got there, but I look back on that and going, wow, you were thin.
Then I got deemed skinny fat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All of those terms.
All of that.
So then, okay, you were in those mistakes, but like lessons learned, right? So talk to us on like that latter half of your journey and where you are now at 62, and like what made you turn it around? What were the strategies? What were the things that you started implementing there?
I think the biggest thing was I stopped blaming everything else for my lack of success. I was queen of that. Of that. Yeah, right? I blamed my age. I blamed menopause. I would blame, I don't even know. I was constantly a victim. And so because of that, I never really made any progress. And I think I kept in that cycle for so long because it's hard to face the truth. It's hard to be honest with yourself and tell yourself, you know what, you have not been doing what you need to do to reach the goal that you want to reach. For decades, not just, oh yeah, last month you screwed up. No, this is for the majority of your life. And that is it's more than a pill to swallow. I don't know. It really took a lot of reflection and acceptance. And that I'm not an idiot, because I was like, what an idiot. I've done all this for so long and none of it was the direction I should be going in. But in fairness, it was what we knew back then, It was the information we were getting. So went and had the doctor's appointment who confirmed that all my blood work's fine. I don't have a low thyroid. I don't have low metabolism. I blamed all of those things that can be hooked under menopause. And when I finally, my last kind of scapegoat left, you couldn't really blame it on that. That's when I had to start, looking at myself. And it was a hard pill to swallow. It took a little bit of time. But when I did, I started making small little changes. I didn't even track. I just paid attention to how much I was eating because that ultimately was the problem.
Yeah.
And so made small changes there. Was working with some trainers along the way, loved working out in the gym, wanted to do powerlifting. And that's when I hired Jordan as my personal coach. And we started working together maybe when I was 55, somewhere in there. It's been a long time. We were just talking about this the other day. So it was a long time, 55-ish, something like that. And from that moment on, everything changed. I became a student. I became a great student. You tell me to jump 6 feet, I'm jumping 6 feet.
I love that.
And I am You tell me to send you videos, I'm sending you videos. I do what I'm told to do. And I had finally had structure. I started reading and watching everything that he put out, and it made so much sense. And while I didn't go to him for nutrition, we ended up working with nutrition a little bit as we went along. But that I usually did the nutrition he would put out in his inner circle. I joined it early on in the very early days as a member, and I would just kind of implement stuff from there. And he was coaching me, and he took me through a whole different way of working out, where I finally started making progress, and everything just kind of catapulted from there. And along the way, I'm relearning things. You have to unlearn some things. You have to relearn other things. And I guess a big takeaway for me was the emotion that's tied to all of these things for us, from decades, is still there for me. Yeah, so the scale fluctuations are a great example.
Yeah.
I hate it when I see the scale go up, It's emotional for so many of us, because in my generation, we didn't talk about fluctuations. We didn't know anything about that. It was just, it went up, that's bad. It goes down, that's good. That's what we knew. So to this day, when it goes up, I still get a little kick in the gut, but the difference now is I have control over the emotion. I don't let the emotion ruin everything, because I understand it now. I understand what's happening. I didn't for 40 years, So I think that's a big difference, is we still have the emotion. I don't think it's ever going to go away, ever. I don't think. But we learn how to manage it and can move on. It's just like, okay, I don't like that. Okay, whatever. Move on.
Yes. Oh my God. Everything that you just said there, to unpack it really quick. First, you spoke of the victim mentality, which, I love that you broke through and started taking ownership and responsibility for your actions, because you're the one in control of everything, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing to unpack there is that you hired an amazing coach, and there's so many benefits to working with a good coach.
Yeah.
And then the last thing that I love is the scale. And I was on your Instagram too, checking out your page, which I love too, by the way. And there was a post that you shared on that as well, which I love that you have, because there's 3 pillars that I say with the scale. It's let me first figure out behaviorally where I'm at with this human. How are you connected to the emotions of the scale? Do you step on it and your emotions fluctuate? Either if it goes down or up, you feel great or you feel negative. And then maybe we can just use it, if we can pass that, use it as just a tool, which are the things that you're talking about. And then what I saw on your Instagram was the data points, right? So can you share with the audience when you're looking at using the scale and then wanting it to attach it to progress, what it would look like at 30 days, what you shared on your post?
Sure. I'm a big proponent of weighing in every day. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to weigh in every day. But I'll tell you what, I think you're doing yourself a real disservice if you don't. Because if you think about it, over the course of 30 days, you weigh in every single day, the same time every single day. You have 30 data points or 31 data points that you can step back and look at and kind of graph. And a lot of these apps graph it for you right now. You can see a trend line. Is the trend line going down? Is it going up? Is it laying flat? You have so many data points to look at. So if you go to once a week, which tends to be a real popular alternative with people, here's the big problem with once a week. You weigh in on a Friday, that's weigh-in day. It sits on a pedestal. It is an event. It's not part of your everyday life. It is now an event. And let's say weigh-in day is Friday and it's Tuesday, and you've gotten off track a little bit and you're not feeling great about where you are, and you have to step on the scale in 2 days. Guess what you're probably going to do for the next 2 days? You're not going to do what your plan is, that's for sure. You're going to change everything. You're going to overly restrict, maybe do a lot more exercising, cardio, whatever, just so the scale will read a number that you think is favorable. And so what you've done is you've completely negated the value of that weigh-in that day. It means absolutely nothing anymore, because you've changed everything just to try to dictate what that scale is going to do. You're trying to take control of it. And the odd part about that is, or the irony maybe, is that you can't control it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to control. And so it also is a problem, because if you weigh in on Friday and let's say it's up a pound, what you don't see is what happened from last Friday. You don't see, the trend line is actually going down. but you happen to step on it on a Friday that you're holding on to some water for whatever reason. And there's a million reasons why our bodies hold on to water. And so you're thinking, oh, wow, I gained a pound of fat. That's another thing. You're thinking you gained fat that fast, but you're thinking you gained a pound of fat when in essence, you really didn't. You're just holding on to some water. And if you had weighed in every single day, you would have seen all the different fluctuations. So while granted, it's hard for someone, again, in my age bracket in particular, but any age bracket, when you are very emotional about that number and you have a lot of history with this, it is tough. It is tough to remove the emotion. But I find what I have done with this, and I still do it to this day. If I feel it starting to creep up a little bit more, I just say, Susan, shut up. You are fine. You did not eat over 3,500 calories over my maintenance yesterday. I did not do that. So the scale reflection today has zero to do with fat. I tell myself that once in a while when it gets kind of crazy in my head too.
Sure. I love that.
And I just feel like we all need to do that. And it's an awareness, and it's a little tough love too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You got to tell yourself to shut up, because if you don't, the emotion that's going in your head is going to take over. And here's the other thing I like to say. We all have logic voices in our head too, but they're sitting in the back. They're lounging in a lazy boy while the emotions are just having fun and messing with you and saying, look, you screwed up, man. Your scale's up a pound. You need to shut up emotion and get logic voices up off the lazy boy to tell emotion to shut the hell up.
Yes. Susan, I love it. I love it. I love the direct bluntness too as well. Like that is me and that's the audience. So they're going to really accept that.
Because that's me too.
Yes. And Jordan too. You guys are all, I love it. I love it. Yeah. Okay. So all great stuff there. Now I know that strength and building muscle is something that you love to help your people do. So why is it so beneficial to do those things?
Wow. I mean, gosh, the list is like so long, but the basic stuff is building strength and muscle is going to lead us all to a much more functional life as we get older. Be thinking grandkids, getting up and down off the floor, going up and down steps, sitting, standing, all those kinds of basic life things that we want to be able to do for as long as possible. And not only live longer, but with a quality of life. Mm-hmm. And that's what strength training will bring to the table. And there's so much research out right now that is showing that is like the number one thing for longevity.
Yes. Dr. Gabriel Lyons, the organ of longevity is muscle.
Yep.
Yes.
And Dr. Peter Attia, I'm almost finished his book. His book is unbelievable about longevity I'm sorry?
What's the book title?
It's called Outlive. It's unbelievable. And it is basically saying that exercise, strength training in particular, is like the thing for all of us to be doing. And even if you're not a strength training fan, you'd rather do other things. I get it. That's cool. Do other things. But strength training is too important to not include in some way, shape, or form in what you're doing. And it's also obviously it's going to build muscle mass. And when you have muscle mass on you, your quality of life as you get older going to be much better. It's going to increase the strength of your bones. Bone density can improve. And here's the interesting thing, we can build muscle as we get older too. We used to think, no, we're done with building muscle at a certain age. That's not true. Is it harder for us? Yeah, it probably is going to be a little bit harder for us, but we can always do it. And so it's too important not to even try that, especially this bone density thing, which I don't think we talk about enough, because how many times have we seen elderly people fall? And break a hip?
You are literally speaking my language right now. I literally speak about this all of the time. Osteoporosis, postmenopause, all of the estrogen is dropping. And I used to, as I shared with you, worked in the ER. I was in a long-term nursing care facility for 9 years. And the amount of people that I saw coming into the hospital with hip fractures and falling, it's scary. So it's scary.
It's so scary. And your chances of not breaking something, well, first of all, your chances of not falling have gone up dramatically, right? If you're stronger, you're more stable, but even if you should fall, the chances of you breaking something are going down so much because now you've built up your bone density. So to put it all in a nutshell, I think those are all the reasons why every single one of us should be focused on building strength and muscle. And that doesn't mean you have to be a bodybuilder. And I think that's another thing that we get in our heads. We're going to get big and bulky, like, the Hulk or something like that. And I got to tell you, that ain't going to happen.
Exactly.
I mean, none of us have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Ever. Yep. Ever.
Yeah. Exactly. I think that's just a myth that a lot of women have in their head, and that's social media and all of the things.
Well, and I also think too, because I think when people think of strength and muscle, they see a lot of powerlifting. And when you see a lot of strong powerlifting girls, a lot of them are bigger and they're purposefully bigger. They've done this purposefully to go for their goals, right? So their nutrition has been shifted very differently than most of us would probably eat to accommodate their goal. And that's what I feel like so many people see as building muscle. And it's not. Mm-hmm. It's not what building muscle is about. And so I think that adds to the problem with the whole bulking thing.
Yeah, I totally agree. Or, the people that are in the bodybuilding world and they admire the bodybuilders that are on stage and they're probably not entirely all natural. So there's that too as well. So, but yeah, you're spot on with what you just said. So when it comes to building muscle and when it comes to like working out, what do you feel like are the common mistakes that people make? And then when they're trying to do that, and then how can they be avoided?
Yeah, I think so. One common mistake is people don't follow a program, right? They're going to an F45 or an Orange Theory and thinking their little weight segment is enough. And I will say this, if you're starting from zero and, you like being in that community, do it. But that kind of weight training versus a strength training program that's structured and organized are two very different things. And the results that most people want are going to come from a structured strength training program, which a lot of people don't have, So that is one mistake, is doing all classes and getting frustrated that you're not making the progress you want to see. You're just not doing quite the right kind of training. And so a structured strength training program is where I think everybody needs to be. And if you're new to it, hire a personal trainer in person to start you. So you have that person there who can show you around the gym, who can show you how to lift appropriately, for you and your level, and show you how to do it safely and effectively. And then eventually you can do it on your own, and you can join all kinds of groups and whatever and get programs written for you and that kind of thing, and do it on your own. But I think following a program is one of the biggest. I also think that people aren't lifting enough weight.
Hey, just want to drop a huge appreciation to you guys listening to the show. It means a lot. I hope you guys are enjoying it, and there's so much more to come with it. If you are enjoying it, hit the subscribe button. I'd appreciate that tons. And also, it would help this podcast reach others who need to hear these messages too. Thanks so much, guys. Let's get back to the show. Yes.
I
think it louder.
Yeah. I mean, you're stronger than you think. I guarantee it. It's so funny. I see somebody pick up a 20-pound dumbbell. I'm using this just as an example.
Yeah.
Not for anybody to gauge your weight or anything like this. A 20-pound dumbbell, and they're doing a dumbbell row. And those rows are moving, right? They're going fast. Rep number 1 looks exactly like rep number 10. And they keep using that weight.
Yes.
And I'm like,
You're speaking my language here. Let's go. Keep going, Susan.
I know, right? It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
You don't stick with that weight. Mm-hmm. If this is me and I use that 20 and I got 10 reps, okay, that next set, I'm going to 25. And if I can get 25, that next set, I'm going to 30. I am pushing the envelope. And then I always get asked, but what if I can't get all of the reps with 25? Okay, so let's say you got 5 out of 10 with 25. This is what I do. Not everyone has to do this, but okay, I got 5 out of 10. I'll put down the 20 and I'll get that. I'll put down the heavier weight I'll go get that lighter weight, the 20, and I'm going to finish the reps.
Heck
I'll
yeah.
do 5 more.
I agree.
So I need to end at 10.
Yes.
It says 10. I want to end at 10. I write in my notes, I did 5 at 25, 5 at 20. Now, my goal moving forward is to get all of those, all that next set at 20, at 25 pounds. So I'm constantly pushing the envelope with weight. And I feel like people don't do that enough. And that's why most people are not seeing the results they want to see, is that they're just not pushing themselves enough. And then the last big mistake is you're constantly dieting, constantly dieting, trying to lose weight in a calorie deficit, eating virtually nothing, expecting that you're going to be able to build a crap ton of muscle or hoping. You're afraid to eat in maintenance, much less a surplus, and I think that's a dieting mindset that was probably validated over decades. It is something that's going to be hard to combat. It's scary putting up calories when you fought your whole life to get the scale to go down. Now you're trying to get it to go up. It's a scary thing, but I feel like you have to eat to support your goals too. You can't always be in a calorie deficit and expect to see definition in your muscles.
Yeah. Love it. Everything that you just said there is 110%. I love, especially too with working out, not pushing yourself enough. It's like you're just going through the motions. And that's why I tell people, if you just want to go through the motions, like then just expect the same type of results you're getting right now, because ain't nothing going to happen from that. Do you make ugly faces when you work out, Susan?
All the time. And I make noises too, a lot of times, and it's so funny because on one of the posts I just put up, that was one of the criteria. Are you lifting enough weight? Are you making funny faces? That's not scientific, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of truth behind that, actually. Because as I said at the beginning, if rep 8, 9, and 10 look very similar to rep 1, 2, and 3, you are doing yourself a disservice. There's no rules police here. There's no one that's going to say, well, if you can't do all 3 sets with 25 pounds, you better not even try. There's nobody there that's saying that. You need to get out of your own way and go pick up that heavier dumbbell. I'm constantly testing the waters. Every time I go to the gym, let me see what I got today. Because sometimes I surprise myself. Most of the time I can tell what kind of day it's going to be, because I've done this long enough now. I understand if I don't have the energy, if I'm not feeling it, whatever. But there are some times where, okay, I did this the other day. I tried 50-pound dumbbells on a bench press and I got a couple of reps. I was completely shocked. I haven't done that in a long time. I've been working my way back to that. So you never know, right? You never know. I think we are all stronger than we think.
Absolutely. 100%. So you touched there too on the last mistake that people make is nutrition and constantly dieting. So I want to ask you, what is the importance of discuss the importance of proper nutrition when it comes to building muscle?
So the optimal way to build muscle is eating in what's called a calorie surplus, eating a little bit more than your body needs to maintain its weight. And I think when we hear surplus or we hear I'm going into a bulking phase, that's awful, by the way. I've never said that, but that's what people call it. We get this idea of like, okay,
I like to call it a building phase. Building sounds better than a bulking. So I like to call it build.
Building sounds so much better. Yeah. And when if we're in a surplus to feed that, it's just it's a smidge more than your maintenance, and that's the amount that you eat. And you kind of hover in this little maintenance bubble of anywhere from 1 to 4 or 5 pounds. You just kind of play around in that area. That's where I've been living for years. Same 3, 4 pounds for me. Some people's maintenance range is larger, others can be a little bit smaller, but we're only talking a smidge over that. We're not talking about hundreds and thousands of calories more that you have to stuff down and feel so full. That's in our head, right? That's not, we have kind of taken something and blown it way out of proportion. But I feel like not enough people spend time in maintenance.
Yes.
Even, learning how to live.
Maintenance is magic.
Maintenance is magic. And it's interesting. I think people don't like it because the word implies you're kind of stagnant. You're just, you're in this maintaining mode. And in the inner circle, Jordan and I nicknamed it momentum, because we really feel like this is a time where you are building momentum. You're building confidence. You're building nutritional momentum to either keep going if you want to go into a surplus, to maybe even go back into a deficit if you're still in that phase, or to just get used to learning about living in this world of maintenance or momentum. It's a learning stage, and it's the place where you should spend most of your life, to be perfectly honest. And you can build muscle in this stage. And the cool thing is, if you get rid of all these unrealistic expectations and timelines, you throw those out the window. Maintenance is my preferred way to build muscle, to be honest, because it's just you living your life, having fun, giving yourself some goals in the gym, some very specific goals in the gym, and work towards those and have fun doing it. I mean, that's what it's kind of all about.
Yes. You're speaking my language, Susan. I love it. Let's go. Maintenance is magic, man. And it's so true. It's like so many people, a lot of people think, and I think it's just correlated to that diet mindset that a lot of people have. They have to eat less. They have to be in deficits. They, want to lose the fat, want to lose the weight. And there's a common question that I get that I would love to ask you is like, can you build muscle when you're in a deficit?
And there's a lot of nuance to this question, I think. I think everyone wants to lose weight and build muscle. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people want to do that. And I think it depends on where you're at. If you have a lot of weight to lose, and I don't even want to put a number on that, because people will take, people get very literal. Substantial amount of weight to lose. You probably should just stay in a nice, modest deficit and train like you're building muscle.
Yes.
And here's the funny thing: training's not going to change that much, if at all. Train, because you can build some muscle under layers of fat. Yes, you can, especially if you're newer to training.
Mm-hmm.
And so why wouldn't you try? Why would you not even attempt to build muscle while you're in a deficit? So if you have a lot of weight to lose, you're better off losing your fat first. And then when you're ready, slowly bring calories back in to where you find your little maintenance bubble. And that's where I would start people at. Start building at maintenance first, right? If you don't have much weight to lose at all, then I'd say you need to turn that corner right now and get into maintenance. The people, the last 5, 10 pound kind of people, that people get really obsessed with that. And I don't think people understand that what you're going to have to do to lose those last 5 pounds it's not going to be what you did to lose the first 5 pounds. It's not going to be remotely close. The reins are going to be pulled in tighter. You have hardly any, if any, wiggle room anymore. Going out with friends and family, all that, you got to take a hard look at that. Stuff like that, for 5 pounds, you have to evaluate how much that is really going to be worth it. I always tell people, you're going to be happier if you get your calories to maintenance and now shift your focus to building muscle and get it off of losing weight and nutrition and blah, blah, blah. Keep your maintenance nutrition going, learn to live there, and now give yourself some very specific performance-based goals and start really training, not working out anymore. We're not checking a box. We're training towards something. And that changes everything. And then take pictures of yourself while you're doing this every 4 weeks. So you can look at the first day compared to day 90, let's say. And because you won't see the changes in the mirror as much as you probably would like to. But when you put these pictures side by side, you're like, holy crap, I look completely different. Well, you won't in 90 days, but you get the drift. You will see changes that you wouldn't see every single day had you not taken pictures. So I think it just depends on where the person is. And I also say, you can also think of it this way. People say, can I, lose weight, build muscle at the same time? You could do periods of a deficit, 3 months, 3 months of muscle building. At the end of 6 months, you did both. You look at it in a bigger time piece.
Yes. Great answer. That's all in alignment. All the things that, we say over at WarriorBabe and the things that we speak to. And I love that you're just so in alignment with all of that information. So can we switch back really quick? You talked about in that answer there, doing almost like the boring work inside the gym. Like not much training is going to change here, right? When you're trying to just lose, if you're losing a significant amount of weight, or even in general, right? People think that they should go in and they change their workout plan tomorrow. Like you mentioned it too earlier. You're like, nah, people just follow a program. They go into the gym and they do a different workout each single day or each in every single week. So can you talk to like a little bit about why progressive overload is like so important, or like sticking to a program for a long period of time, why that's so important when it comes to the ultimate goal of putting on more muscle to the body?
Yeah, I think one thing we don't do well generally is to track progress in our workouts, right? Especially if you do classes, you can't track how do you do that really in classes? And I tell people you really need to be as attentive to tracking your progress in your workouts as you do with your nutrition. You're weighing your food, you're counting calories, you're doing protein, blah blah blah, and you're keeping all the data, but yet you're just going in and working out and going home, right? And so if you want to make progress over time, and we hear progressive overload is basically making progress over time in some way, shape, or form. And the most common form is to add weight, but you can add repetitions at the same weight. I mean, there's lots of ways to get better. Essentially, you want to improve. To break it down into something very, very simple, it just means you're getting better. Somehow or another, you are getting better. Maybe you're adding more weight. Maybe you did another set, whatever it is. But I think we have to keep track of all of this, because how are we going to know? Like, if you don't even write down how much weight you moved that day, you're not going to have any idea of, wait a minute, was I using 15 or 20? Or, you're going to really kind of hold yourself back from making progress, I think, because you're very unsure where you were. So, track your workouts and always work to push that envelope somehow, shape, or form. That's my progressive overload in my head, right? Constantly trying to move it one notch. And maybe there's going to be days where you can't move it at all. That's perfectly normal. Training's not linear either. Just like losing weight's not a straight line. Getting strong and building muscles, not a straight line either. You're going to have periods where you think nothing's working. My deadlift for a while stayed the same for almost 8 months. And so I could, beef it up. But I didn't stop. I didn't say it's not working. I just kept going, And that's the simplicity of the building muscle thing. It is kind of simple in concept. You take basic movements. All my movements that I do are just basic movement patterns. There's nothing crazy that I have ever done. And I do variations of different things here and there, but it's the same movement patterns I've been doing that for years, right? And I've tracked every single one of my workouts. So if I could pull up what I started deadlifting with and what I currently deadlift with, and I think when you're building muscle, this is the scale, the thing that we usually go to, the scale is not going to be a big help for us here. I mean, it's just not. But pictures and then tracking our progress and looking, oh my God, I started this program and I only could lift 10 pounds. I'm ending this program and I've doubled what I lifted. That's what it's about. And how you're going to feel when you start seeing stuff like that, that's something that words don't do justice to describe that feeling, I don't think, until you feel it. And then you're like, holy shit. You feel like a badass. You feel like it just gives you this sense of confidence that goes through your whole life. You will see other areas of your life. All of a sudden, you sit a little taller. All of a sudden, you're not afraid to speak your mind. Just it just permeates everything, and that's significant, especially as we get older. I think that's something we all need.
Yeah.
So
100%. I love that, because it's even more to what we spoke to earlier as to why building muscle is so beneficial. It's, to all the things that we spoke to with like the muscle is the organ of longevity, and it makes you live longer and you get to be running around with your grandkids and all of the things. But even for you as a human, you gain so much confidence. You feel so good. You have newfound energy from doing all of those things, from eating right, fueling your body the right way, and lifting some weight and challenging yourself. It's you versus you in that moment. It's like, it's either you're going to pick up the weight and you're going to challenge yourself to move it, or you're going to stay stagnant and just go through the motion. So which one do you want to choose?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I also want to add to people, building muscle takes more time than losing fat. It really does. And I understand it can be frustrating to a lot of people because you don't have the validation that we all like to have as human beings, right? We don't always have that. And that's why I tell people to give yourself a specific goal in the gym is super helpful for this, super helpful. Because it does give you something tangible. Like you want to get your first chin up, let's say. That is a training goal. You're now training. You're not working out. You are training because you want to get that first chin up. And let's say you've been using chin up assist bands and you were using the real thick one. And one day you decide, I'm going to put on that purple one. I want to see if I can do any with the purple one. And you can start flying up there with less help on your chin ups. You've gotten stronger and you just had validation right there, right in that instant. You made progress. You're going to be more motivated to keep going, and work hard. And you're just going to keep that wheel spinning, which is what you want.
Exactly. And I love that you spoke to that because so many people want instant gratification, right? They want to pop their body into a microwave and out in 30 seconds comes like a toned muscular body. I always joke about that. And I'm like, that's not the way it works when it comes with building muscle. But to your point here, you can find instant gratification in the way you're going to be training for things inside of the gym. You set this non-scale victory or composition, what your body's going to look like. And you say, I want to do a muscle up or a chin up. And so you set this number, you set that goal, and you can go in the gym and now you're training towards that and you can feel it. And like, if you're eating right and doing all the right things in like a week or 2 weeks, you may have hit one more chin up than you did the previous 2 weeks,
Yeah.
And that's some instant gratification that you're going to find quicker than what you may find when you're trying to build muscle to your body, which is going to be a significant amount of time.
And, building muscle, I ask people what their goal is and they say they want to build muscle. Well, that's a big generic goal, right? I always ask them to give me something else that's a little bit more slimmed down and tangible for them, right? And because you really have to think for building muscle, you have to think in years. It's not a month. And I bring this up because I post my transformation picture, if you want to call it that, to different ones frequently. And I always get asked how long in between the two. That's what the first thing everyone wants to know. How long? And I don't know. And that's legitimate. I have no idea when that first picture was taken. And people are stunned by that.
Wow.
And they say, how can you not know? I said, well, I could figure it out. I was running a race. I could look up the year that race was. That I could do. And I do, just to give them a number. I said, but the point is, I was so caught up in, I wanted to get a chin up. I wanted to be able to deadlift a certain number of weight. I had lost track of time. I didn't care anymore.
And you're still working towards it, right? You're still doing it. There's no end point. There's no deadline to like you building.
No.
I always like to say, it's like when you think about that phrase, I want to build muscle and change the way my body looks or change my body composition or whatever. I'm like, that is a lot to unpack. Like, let's pull it in, like you're saying, reel it in a little bit closer and let's do the things that are going to get you there, right? And look at the daily small wins that will help you over time compound into that ultimate goal. But yeah, to your point, it's like, people ask me that same question. I'm like, I'm still going. Like it doesn't stop. Like it started somewhere, but like, I don't know at what point, maybe a couple of years in that I started seeing the changes that I want, but a couple of years to preface that. And then it's like, I'm still going. So like, I still work on like some parts of my body that I want to build and change and all of that. So like, it's like there's no destination, right? Like people look at like they want, and that's the thing too, with like the yo-yo and like the diet culture. It's like, I want to get to a goal, right? Which I love when it comes to like training and all that stuff. Great. Keep hitting those goals, but people want goals with their body. And I feel like it like creates this all or nothing mentality of like, I'm going to get here and then what? You stop. Just like marathon people, if they like run a marathon, it's like they just stop. So can you share your insight on what, the journey means to you, like why you do this, really, I guess is my question.
It's so funny because I've been driven by little goals for so long. Oh, that looks cool. I'm going to do that. It's nothing more, people, I don't know if people are expecting this real deep answer, but I'm kind of like, I wanted to do a chin up my whole life. I was heavy my whole life. I was that kid in elementary PE that couldn't do the arm hang. I didn't have enough strength to do an arm hang. And now, I work towards a 45-pound weighted chin up. And I had a
That's
little bit of a
badass.
shoulder injury, So, well, it's so interesting because my shoulder, I have a weird shoulder and was rearing its ugly head. So I had to kind of rebuild my chin ups and I'm in the process of rebuilding. So here it is again. I'm going to be knocking on the door of that 45-pound again. I've learned from the first time the frequency was too much. As I'm getting older, I've got to space it out more and more. I've got to put a day, maybe two, and in between weighted chin up days. I've learned that first time around the hard way, I guess. So now I'm in rebuild mode, and so I'm just working I want to get like 3 or 4 reps with that thing strapped to my waist one day. So I'm working towards that. I'm rowing 90-pound dumbbell. I want to do 100. That's my big goal there. I mean, I have these goals. Why a dumbbell row? I don't know. I just,
Yeah.
I just think it would be fun. And then most recently I started jujitsu. I started jujitsu at 62.
That's so badass. You started at 62. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was terrified.
True testament. It's never too late. You're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I'm turning a corner there now. I feel like that's a complex puzzle. Let me tell you something. Jujitsu is something else, but it's been a learning curve and a half. It still is. But it's been something completely different for me to do. And I've really enjoyed it.
That's so impressive. So with trying new things, do you ever get like nervous or fearful or like, talk to me. I know there's a lot of people that like are fearful walking into the weight room, right?
I was jujitsu. Oh my God. I mean, it's very similar to wrestling.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm doing 101 private lessons. I haven't done classes. I'm going to start classes actually next week. And I have a lump in my stomach thinking about going into a class. But I know I need to do it and I know I'm going to benefit a lot from it. So I kind of do it. But the first time I walked in for jujitsu, I was terrified. I didn't know what to expect. My instructor's a male and a lot of people get weirded out by that. And it doesn't even cross my head anymore. My whole mindset has shifted, but it was a lot of feeling uncomfortable. And it's so interesting because Jordan told me this one time, and I feel like this is so true. When there is something in front of you that to do, let's say, something you want to try, but you don't want to try, I can't, and deep down inside, because you're scared shitless to do it, you need to do it. That's something that you need to do. And you'll never regret doing it. You're going to learn so much. You may not continue with it. Cool. That's fine. But you will never regret doing it, trying it. And you will regret not trying it because then you'll never know. You will never, ever know. And that's kind of how it was with jujitsu because, Jordan's really big into jujitsu and he has been talking with me for so long about it and said, I think you're going to like it. I think, but if you don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. And so I finally did it. Literally, I drove over there, cold knocked on the door, basically.
That is awesome.
And signed up and started the next day. And I go 2 to 3 times a week. So
that is amazing. That is an inspiration to many people, Susan, especially just for the go-getter mentality. Like, just go do it. You won't know until you try. And like you said, you won't regret it trying. Yeah, you may not stick to it, but like you tried. At least you know the answer.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm kind of, my perspective on life at this age has shifted a lot. Like I realized my life continuum is not as long as it used to be. And I really don't want to be one of those people who has a ton of regrets like that. Like, I wish I had tried that. I don't want to be like that. I mean, we all have life regrets. I'm not even talking about that kind of stuff, but stuff that, man, why didn't I try that, back when I could or whatever. I don't want to ever be like that.
Especially when it comes to, I think that's a really good thing to talk about and elaborate here really quick, especially when it comes to your health and trying things in regards to your health and making you physically better. Because I like to paint this picture with our community. It's like, think about your body at 70. It could be either 2 ways for you here. It could literally, if you're someone that's not trying things for your health and your fitness and you're kind of just like stagnant, you're comfortable, you're doing you're not really doing anything to make your body healthy and strong. That could be a different look at age 70 as opposed to somebody who is doing the things and trying the things and getting their feet wet in jujitsu and like, even just like going for a walk and then incorporating strength training and like then adding and stacking on better habits for you. Your age and your body at 70 could look completely different than
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so funny with all the talk of longevity, that's a real big piece of it. And a lot of research shows that when we hit 75, there's a sharp decline for all of us. But those of us that are working prior to that, our decline is much less. We're all going to have it. But and that got my attention very quickly.
Yeah.
When I heard that from a couple different medical people, that we all have this cliff, and it's just how steep is it going to be?
Yeah.
And I want mine to be as flat as possible.
Yeah. Well, you remind me that Train with Joan, isn't she like the one that's like 80 and ripped and or like, she's got muscle. Like, yeah. And the other bodybuilder, I forget her name.
Love Joan.
Yeah. Yeah. So you remind me, you're definitely an inspiration to the women that are, and I know I'm sure you already know that, but just to reiterate it to the women that are your age and, don't think they can do it, but it's like, no, let's get out of that mentality and like, you can do it. It's never too late.
You can do it. That's kind of my mission now, is to kind of hopefully lead the way, lead by example, and convince everybody that it isn't too late. It does take work though. And that you got to be ready to do. I mean, it's going to take work no matter how old you are. But it will take work, but it's not such an outrageous amount of work or the kind of work, whatever. You can do it. You just need to decide that this is a priority for you and that you want to do it, and you start. You have to take action.
Love it. All of that is so true. Susan, I think that's a good spot to wrap up because it's so inspiring. And I want women to get off of this podcast and be like, all right, I'm going to go take some action right now. I need to go lift. I need to go eat right. I need to go grocery shopping. Like, they feel super empowered by you and your message. And I feel like that was very powerful and impactful. And I know that's your mission to help women break through that mindset. So let them know where they can find you, where are you at, your book, mention that for them too.
Sure. You'll find me mostly on Instagram, and it's Susan Neibergall Fitness. I have a YouTube channel that has a lot of great resources. I try to uncomplicate a lot of stuff over on YouTube. Facebook too. I have a podcast as well called the Strong and Lean at Any Age podcast. Jordan and I are regulars on his and mine, actually. And my book is called Fit at Any Age, It's Never Too Late. And you can find that on Amazon.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan, for being here. Again, appreciate you and your insight and your golden nuggets. And thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Real quick, the only ask I could ever have of you guys is to help spread the word so we can help more women lose body fat, build muscle, reach their goals, and feel insanely confident. And the only way we can do that is if you rate, review, and share this podcast. So the single thing I ask for you to do is if you could leave a review. It will take you 10 seconds, and it will mean the absolute world to me and may change the world of someone else.